It's our thesis that as video moves into programmatic and we see more and more impressions kind of moving in that direction, we believe that more information is needed on what impressions people see when they're watching videos. And so when you press play on a video, this sends this URL to an ad network, and the content that's described is encapsulated in just that single page URL. And so what we aim to do is take that page URL, dig through the actual page, figure out where the videos are, figure out whether or not they're on autoplay, whether there are multiple videos on that page, and actually then stream the frames to ourselves and detect the actual literal content that's represented by the visual stuff in that video. And so all that data that we then provide to an ad network or to a publisher, and that can be used to enhance the programmatic environment in the sense that you can now buy inventory and know more about it before you're actually running it. In general, what we do is we get a runtime request. And so if you're pressing play in a video, you're getting a ping from a player, and that's getting sent to an ad network. And when we work with an ad network, we get that ping as well. And so we're getting that page URL, and we're actually digging through that page and figuring out where the videos are and doing our thing in there. So most of the time it's actually at runtime. So when someone's actually pressing play. In other cases, we're doing big audits where someone's saying, well, I want to know more about my network, or I'm a publisher, I want to know more about everything that I have on my site, whether it's UGC or kind of mid-premium or whatever. And so we'll actually then just take a big list of impressions and index them as well. So we can kind of go either way, but those are the two main deliveries. One of the issues right now, I think, in video is that you have a lot of kind of mixed content publishers. And what we see, what I mean by that is you have a publisher that might be running a lot of sports content and tech content and politics, and the problem is that when the ad impression actually runs, we don't actually know which one that is, right? And so if you have this publisher with lots of varied content, you kind of stoop to the lowest common denominator and say, okay, well, that's remnant, because I don't really know what's going to be there. There might be some fractional objectionable content, and so you kind of price it lower and call it remnant or UGC. And it brings the value of those impressions down. And what we found is that if you can actually index those, right, you can index those into categories, what you wind up being able to do is run impressions on politics or tech or sports, and actually sell those ads for higher values when you have those buckets. We're really excited about working with Collective. It's a big deal for us, and it's kind of comes in two parts. There's a large audit, and then there is an ongoing kind of daily indexing that we're doing, where we're basically going through their impressions and indexing each one and looking through and figuring out what we can figure out about the content and the viewability, where all these videos are located, these sorts of things. And it just allows us to really kind of demonstrate the use of our system at a very large scale. And so we're very excited about that.
Great. And do you have any advice to publishers on how to organize their content so that it's properly, crawled by you guys? Like, are there any sort of tips or site maps, or there's anything that people can do to tip off your system better somehow?
I mean, what I would suggest is, particularly with the viewability stuff, is to try and resist the urge to put lots of videos on a single page, right? And also try and resist the urge to run videos that are way below the fold on autoplay. This is something we see a lot, which is effectively videos that are 900 or 1,000 pixels below the fold on autoplay, and those impressions run, and very few people actually see them. And so these are the kinds of things that I think, if you're a publisher running on an ad network, they could distress the ad network if they find out that you're running lots of these kinds of impressions and their advertisers don't feel like they're getting their money's worth. So that's the one big thing I would suggest, which we see a lot of now, which is sort of smaller videos running deep below the fold on autoplay. Those are pretty easy things to repair, and I think those are the ones that I would suggest. In terms of company size, we're about 6 people. And we'll probably grow a few more this year. The product's designed to scale without having to add lots of people. But we do process quite a bit of inventory right now. We're at around 50 million impressions a month. We'll probably be in the hundreds of millions over the next few months here. And so we're very excited about that, obviously. I think over time we'll add, we have another product that tags objects and things like this for intelligence organizations, which is it's a similar technology, much different use case than the ad ecosystem. And we also have some legal discovery customers as well, where we're doing things like looking through, sports footage for trademark violations, these kinds of things. So we'll probably work on expanding into some other markets as the year draws to a close. But right now we're focused on kind of really expanding into the ad market and trying to provide our services to the largest video ad networks out there. We actually started out doing this sort of clickable video play where we were tagging objects in video, and we would look at a shirt and we would say, okay, we know this is a polo shirt, let's tag it in a video, figure out what time it appears at, and then actually put a icon over the shirt and say, time that and say, oh, click on it to buy it, right? Which seems like an obvious and nice way to have video advertising, right? It's just a little less obtrusive. The pre-roll video doesn't have to, you don't have to sit through that 15 seconds. The problem is that, the pre-roll ad market is very lucrative, and so these alternate kind of advertising mediums are great, and they're interesting and they're kind of sexy, but it's hard to introduce sort of this sort of new kind of interactive product in a market that's doing very well, right? You kind of the central thesis is, it's difficult to disrupt a lucrative market, right? So we started out doing that, and over time we realized people were asking us for the data behind what we were actually tagging. And so over time, what we realized is that the data behind the tags were actually more valuable than this layer of clickability that we added. And there are a few other companies now that are doing this clickable video idea, but for us, when we transitioned into kind of becoming this API play, that's kind of really where the business took off.